Back at home, feeling misunderstood in between these ears and...
Well, bench warmers, hopefully you tuned in on Colorcast on Monday night for the national championship. I know I had a ton of fun. Niko, obviously, it was a blast. I mean, I said it throughout the broadcast that it was one of my dreams come true, and it went better than I think we both could have imagined it.
Oh, what a fun time, man. It's unfortunate it was a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie only got to kick twice. So that's unfortunate. But, I mean, it is what it is. Alabama is your national champions. No doubt about it that they were the best team on the football field there. They dominated Ohio State every facet of the game.
Yeah, 52-24 was the final score. And really, it was a close game up until the midway point of the second quarter. And then Alabama's offense just continued to roll on. And Ohio State's defense never had an answer for anything Alabama was doing on offense. Wow. Sarkisian, we gave him a ton of credit on the broadcast. Texas fans, you guys got a good one when you're getting ready for next season. Sarkisian's the head coach of Texas for next season, and he got to finish his time with Alabama with the national championship. But what were some of the main things that you kind of saw from the game that...
Well, I mean, the biggest thing being obviously that Devontae Smith absolutely smashed in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
He only played one half of football, and look at these numbers: 12 receptions, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns in only one half of football. Yeah. He went down with a thumb injury, which was very unfortunate. But the Heisman Trophy winner put on a performance to be talked about in the first half. It was unbelievable what he did. He was no doubt about the best player in college football this year. He earned that Heisman Trophy with flying colors, on the biggest stage in college football. He showed to the world why he is who he is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times
his draft stock rises a lot too.
He might have played his way in New York. We said it on the broadcast, but and Fields might have played his way out of the number 2 overall pick. Not his fault. Obviously, in a lot of pain the entire time coming into the game after the semifinal matchup. That hit from Skalski on his ribs, you could tell that it was affecting him the whole time. Never really got into a rhythm. I mean, there are times where the Ohio State offense drove straight down the field, and there were other times where guys couldn't catch the ball, or Trey Sermon also left the game in the first play.
Very first play. That was a huge blow.
That was the main lead-in coming into the matchup is Chris Olave versus
Patrick Surtain. Yep.
Yeah, and then you had the 2 running backs from each team. Trey Sermon, who put up 500 yards in his last 2 games, against Najee Harris, who I think is the most versatile back to come out of Alabama, and that includes Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, all those guys. This Najee Harris is a bad man, but Trey Sermon not playing really affected him. Master Teague stepped in and did what he could, but he obviously wasn't expecting to be the feature back tonight, and it really kind of hurt Ohio State's offense. And it was going to be a track meet, and Ohio State wore the wrong shoes. That's basically the best way to put it.
Well, I mean, Ohio State put up points. Like we were saying on the broadcast, they had 24 points going into the third quarter. Yes, they weren't able to score any more points, but they put up points. 24 points in a playoff-type game should be a one-possession game. Mm-hmm. But the way Alabama was putting up points and the way their offense was unstoppable, like you said, they only punted twice, and they had 1 turnover. Yep. And that was off of Mac Jones' mishandle of the ball. I mean, that considering you can't even slow down offense that much, we didn't think the over was going to hit, but it killed. The over smashed. Yep. It wasn't even close.
If Devontae Smith plays in the second half, maybe Alabama hits the over themselves, because it was just every single thing that they did tonight was working. Devontae Smith, they put him in the slot, which is interesting because they put him in the slot before this season. After Waddle went down, I think teams kind of forgot that was his initial position. But he goes into the slot, and then he's covered by a safety, which is a mismatch, or a linebacker, which is an even bigger mismatch. And it was frustrating a little bit to watch because, like we said, this was a close game for a while, and it was almost like Ohio State's coaching staff, who hasn't been there before, especially in that capacity, it was just a little bit too much for them. And I think Justin Fields, one of our colleagues on the Unhinged Sports Network, Hilo Sports, said it when we were talking about this game on NFL Unhinged last weekend, but they might have just overshot themselves on the semifinal matchup. That was the game they wanted, and they got it. They avenged a pretty big loss. It was up until this point, the only loss on Justin Fields' record as a starter in college, but now he has to live with the fact that his one shot at the national championship, possibly, because he hasn't declared for the draft yet, but his one shot at the national championship kind of evaporated, And the question still follows Justin Fields. He still can't win a championship no matter what level he's at.
I think he will be declaring for the NFL draft, but the question, as we said, that there could be an opportunity where he returns in the second year. Because we saw him getting banged up at the end of the game, that scratches a lot of heads in the NFL. Those top 10 picks are from Justin Fields. What is the outcome? What are we seeing from him? Is he going to be able to start next year? If it keeps Sam Darnold or keep going forward, I don't know.
Yeah, the Jets are in a weird way, especially now that they lost the first overall pick to the Jaguars. It's unfortunate the way that this season ended, but kudos to the NCAA and kudos to all of the...
We got a season done.
Yeah, we did. And every single player, I know that you had to put up with a whole bunch of bullshit that nobody wanted to, and getting up early to go get tested for COVID and all that kind of stuff, and the travel protocols and not being able to go home for Christmas. There's a lot of sacrifices being made for everybody involved in this.
Especially by college athletes as well. At the pro level where they're getting paid, it's a different story, but these guys, like we said, don't get paid, and they got time away from their families, time where they had to literally get tested for COVID every day.
Yeah.
It's something to be said about all these athletes on the field.
Yeah, before we wrap up this very special center of attention with the two of us, it's not just one of us this week, it's both of us because we just got done with our broadcast on Colorcast. Shout out to Colorcast, by the way. Thank you for that opportunity. And everybody who tuned in on Monday night, we appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments and likes and everything like that. But my one last question, and then I'll give my answer. We didn't watch who got the MVP of the game. Who would have gotten your MVP for tonight's performance from Alabama?
I really was going to say Devontae Smith at the beginning of the year, or beginning of the game, because what he was on pace for was just absolutely insane. But I would have given it to Mac Jones 100%. Mac Jones deserved it. He put on a performance that went right up to toe with Joe Burrow last year. Mm-hmm. Joe Burrow had very similar numbers to Mac Jones. Mac Jones played the whole second half without Devontae Smith, without Najee Harris for times. Maybe that was a rest option, but who knows. You had a limping Jalen Waddle out there. Mac Jones showed a lot of perseverance. He 100% deserved that award. Devontae Smith, like I said, if he played the whole game, it's a different story. Played the whole game, different story. Dude 100% was the best player on the field, no doubt about it when he's out there.
Yeah.
But considering you only saw half of work and what Mac Jones was able to do the whole entire game, I think it's hard to not give it to anyone but him.
Yeah, I think the only person, and I would give it to Najee Harris just because he was kind of the spark at the beginning of the game. Because Mac Jones, you could tell there was some nerves towards the beginning. It's his first time being the starter in a national championship game, first time playing in a national championship game ever. And he was a little bit nervous, but he was able to find those quick little dump-off passes to Najee Harris early. And Harris does a good job when he gets the ball in space, trying to make somebody miss. Very rarely tonight did Najee Harris get tackled by the first Ohio State defender to get to him. And that's something that you always want, no matter who has the ball in their hands. If it takes more than one person to tackle you, you're freeing up space for other people around you. So I would give it to Najee Harris. Also, he had over 160 all-purpose yards through receiving and rushing, and he still didn't even play the whole game.
And looking at it right now, offensive MVP was Devontae Smith. So I mean, I'm not going to hate that at all.
No.
I don't hate that at all. It deservedly went to him because his first half numbers were insane. Mm-hmm. Insane. We've never seen that from a wide receiver. Hopefully, in my opinion, I hope that he doesn't leave the state of Florida. I hope that he can go play for the Dolphins and be Tua's number one option for the future, because I would love to see Tua and Devontae Smith for years to come. Because I know you hate the Dolphins a little bit. I know you're not the biggest fan of them,
slightly,
especially that undefeated team. But way back when, I know you're not the biggest Tua guy either. But it's not his fault that he got thrown into a situation that he wasn't ready for. But that's conflict. That's a conversation we'll have another time. But Devontae Smith and Tua, that'd be a fun duo in the NFL. And considering what they did not too long ago for the game winner in the national title game, it'd be fun to see that duo repair back up.
Yeah, that was the last time Alabama won a national championship up until tonight. So that would be a smart decision, and Brian Flores definitely needs some offensive weapons to pair with Tua, because really it's Tua and a whole bunch of no-names on offense. They overperformed and played over their heads this year, but Brian Flores is a good enough defensive coach. They'll be fine on that side of the ball. Just got to get some more weapons for Tua, and they'll probably be able to compete. They were competing for a playoff spot this year anyways. They were 10-6 and missed the playoffs. So Devontae Smith getting that extra pick from the Laramie Tunsil trade with Houston. Houston's just an absolute dumpster fire based on their offseason moves for the past couple of years. But that would be a good matchup. I did want to shout out Landon Dickerson real quick because he got hurt in the game before, or excuse me, the game before the SEC championship, and wasn't able to play in the playoff or this game. Got in. Nick Saban, I don't really. I respect him as a coach. Whether I like him as a person, that's another question. But he was pretty classy and gave Mac Jones a curtain call, which was cool, and got Landon Dickerson in for 2 snaps on the kneel downs at the end of the game. And if I was playing for a guy, that's the kind of guy that I want to
Nick Saban is a guy everyone wants to play for. To talk about Nick Saban a little bit, he was very emotional after the game. He was seen crying on the stage. Could this be the last time we ever see him? I don't know. I had no idea, honestly. I'm hoping it's not because he's a staple of college football for so many reasons. Alabama football is where they are because of him. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in my mind that this program and this school their football program would be where they are if they didn't have Nick Saban. Going forward, who knows what that coaching tree will look like, but this could be one of the greatest teams that he's ever coached. And that's saying a lot, considering the amount of players, the amount of great teams he's put around, going back all the way to the Greg McElroy days when he won his first national championship. He has had so many great teams, but this team maybe dwarfs them all.
Yeah, I mean, this is an 11-year dynasty, and that's not something that we see all that often. We're in a weird time in our lifetimes to where we've seen a 21-year dynasty with New England and an 11-year dynasty in the college football level with Alabama. It's going to be a crazy offseason to see what happens with everything. Vaccines are starting to go out, so maybe next year will be a little bit more lax. We'll get some more games and hopefully some more bowl games because that's what I'm looking forward to. But now we kind of got to look towards the future, and we'll talk plenty about that on our show moving forward. But I think, anything else that you want to add before we kind of wrap up this segment and get into the rest of the episode?
Well, I think, this Alabama team deserves the credit for sure. Justin Fields, I'm interested to see how he...
Ohio State.
Ohio State, excuse me. They deserve so, and they have a great future ahead. Justin Fields is going to play at the next level. I'm hoping that he comes out and breaks the stigma of Ohio State quarterbacks, because everyone knows if you're an Ohio State quarterback, you're not performing well in the NFL. That's just the reality of the truth. But I'm hoping that they're able to do that. I'm hoping Trey Sermon can either come back next year or we see a position where Olave comes back, because he probably lost his draft stock as well. And it's not their fault. I'm going to say Ohio State, they played a good game. That should not be taken away from them at all. It's just the fact that Alabama dominated and they were the best team in college football, no doubt about it. It's one of those years where there's no doubt about who the best team was this year. Everyone knew Alabama is just on top of the world, and no one can touch them. Everyone's saying maybe Clemson has a shot, maybe Trevor Lawrence is going to have this big year, but no, Ohio State shut that down real quick. And Ohio State had their shot, but Alabama just dominated, and the best team won. And now at the end of the college football season means was going into the draft. Let's see how Alabama retools, because Bryce Young, we saw him at the very end of the game. Maybe he is going to be a big guy for Alabama next year. Maybe they get a transfer or whatever it may be. But it was a great end of the year. It's unfortunate. It was a bad game. They got their ass kicked. Ohio State got their ass kicked. But I was so happy to be a part of the Colorcast and do all that good stuff. I'm going to lose my voice 100%. I'm already losing it. And we have to record the rest of the episode tomorrow. You guys are hearing this all together, so it really doesn't matter.
We're going to time travel here in a second if you're watching, and you'll see the...
Yeah, but my voice will be 100% be shot after this, so I'm going to have to drink some tea. But it was a lot of fun. I'm excited to do more Colorcasts in the future. Hopefully they won't be as long when they're 5 hours long.
Yeah, and it was a weird Colorcast tonight because at the end of the first half, they didn't go to commercial for 10 minutes, and then in the second half, they were going commercial back, commercial back, commercial back. So it would be... The one thing I will suggest, Colorcast, get an analytics feature on your app, and then also get a feature to where I can hear the broadcast that I'm watching so that I can keep up a little bit better for the people listening. But it was a great for what we were able to do. I'm so glad, and I was super excited, kind of nervous to come over and do this.
You took a shot of Fireball getting ready. I don't know how you have a voice. You were I didn't really talk as much as you did, but you were rambling on and on and on because you're a play-by-play.
Yeah.
You've done that for so many years now. You have great experience with that. You did a great job. I was just the guy sitting next to you saying dumb stuff, whatever came to mind.
I appreciate it. This is kind of what I want to do for the rest of my life. Obviously, with podcasting and and talk radio and all that kind of stuff. It's what I've been trying to get into for a while, so I appreciate that. And I don't think you were that bad of a color commentator. You know a little bit more than you lead on, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I was struggling on names. I'll tell you that. I was struggling on names.
See, now you know how I feel during the Nuggets games. I don't know who shot that.
I know. I knew every single person on the Nuggets and what happened each play, and you were killing it with the national title game. And I was struggling. Was that number 2, number 40? I don't know.
If all else fails, say the number, because if somebody's listening that's a fan of the team, they'll know the person's name who wears that number. But yeah, thank you to Colorcast for that. Everybody who tuned in, it was awesome. We will get into the rest of this episode. We'll have NHL preview because the Avs are coming back. Some basketball talk about that, and then obviously we'll recap the super wild card weekend that was.
Super.
Get you guys ready for the rest of the NFL season and the far end of the bench moving forward, because we got a lot of things planned. We got some bonus episodes possibly coming out soon, and then obviously just continuing to put out more and more content, possibly a Twitch channel coming, and
maybe some gaming. We may have an adult men's league on the come
well.
up, so we may see Jimmy in some sports coats, and we might give you some highlights of that too. So be look out for that.
And Nico's going to be tatted up tomorrow. I'm not going to be the only one with a tattoo when we record the rest of this episode. But for that, let's go ahead and get into the rest of Far Into the Bench episode 23.